This is the Horse Radio Network.
Hey, you're listening to Adulting with Horses, the best place to be if you can't be at the barn. We are your co-hosts and equine authors, Heather Wallace and Natalie Keller-Reinert. As crazy horse girls, we don't take ourselves too seriously in the saddle or out. We celebrate the things that make us different. Join us as we talk about horses and pop culture and get a little weird in a fun way. Thank you for being a little weird with us. Surprise.
Hi.
Natalie can hear colors today.
So last night I woke up with this crazy sinus toothache and I took like everything I had. And then
So you're high as fuck.
I woke up at 6 and I took some more. And it's like I have Pop Rocks in my veins.
This is going to be fun.
I am literally shaking under my skin.
Okay.
So I had to write a chapter of something this morning. So I'm writing the chapter and I'm like, I don't think that makes sense, but that's okay. I'll fix it later.
I've never wished we were doing video so much. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I in was it solidarity with you, I have I'm fighting an ocular migraine, and so I've already taken the Advil, but losing vision in one eye, and then I'm recovering from a repetitive strain injury on my right hand, because now of course the knee is fixed, but
right.
Now my body is just you're done. Just stop doing everything.
Oh my God.
So tomorrow I'm officially on vacation for 5 days.
Mm. Yeah, when I was writing, I was like, yeah, I'm going to need vacation, which starts tomorrow.
Are we going on vacation the same time?
Yeah, I think so.
When are you going to Briarfest?
Tomorrow I leave. And so
That's
Briarfest.
not vacation?
Well, Briarfest is the weekend. I won't be
Okay.
writing. And then vacation after that. So
Got you. Yeah, I know. I've been diving really, really deep into this book with Sid Collier because it's due this month.
Right.
And, finalizing everything. We're working on the cover mock-ups, and we still hadn't chosen a title. We had all these working titles that we were thinking of, and then, I kid you not, I was at the barn the other day, and I was talking with one of the lesson women there. She was asking what the project was about, so I was telling her, it's about this woman who's not supposed to be alive, and how she's kind of overcome all these challenges, and she's gone to the Paralympics. And I said, it's her memoir, and I really want to do it justice, and I feel strongly about it. And so we're talking about the details of it, and the 16-year-old girl, who is my, trainer's assistant, she's my barn owner's daughter, she's like a niece, she goes, you should call it XYZ. And I said, oh my God, I think she nailed it. So I called Sid and I said, what do you think about this? She goes, holy shit, I love it. Oh my God, I love it. At 5 exclamations. And so we can't announce anything yet until the title is actually chosen and approved by the publisher. Yeah. But it's just sometimes it just feels like, well, finally, something came together.
I used to hate coming up with titles, and now sometimes I just start and I go, that would be fun. Let's do that. And it goes from there.
Yeah, sometimes I start with the title and then I write the book.
Mm-hmm. You do a lot, actually. I watched you do it once. I watched it happen, and I still don't know when you wrote the book, how it happened.
It's funny. ADHD is a superpower if done correctly. You get an idea and you just steamroll your body into doing it until it's done. Case in point, the new background behind me.
Yeah.
So you and I had discussed recently that we wanted to start adding video to Patreon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my brain is like 3,000 steps ahead of us right now. So I decided, well, I'm going to need a new laptop for that because the last one sucked. And, well, I'm going to need a new background. So let me do curtains or something instead. And then it got worse because I remember I texted you and I was like, Jay's going to have to move his music instruments.
Yeah.
So now I've rearranged the music studio, quote unquote. I'm the only one who uses it. So I've rearranged it, and then I asked him afterward, do you think I can move my whole office downstairs into your old office / music studio?
Wow.
And I did that while he was away. So I haven't touched his drums. And basically, my goal is, this is the setup. My goal is for him to think about it for a couple days, because originally this was his idea, and I didn't want to be in the basement. Like, I didn't want it. But now I'm like, it would be great to have a quiet cave to myself.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's thinking on it. He's like, okay. And so he starts thinking about how he's going to expand his office upstairs. And I'm going to be gone for 5 days. My goal is for him to get it in his head, and he'll move the drums for me. So when I come back, I can start making my office in like studio in one space.
Oh, that's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm a mastermind.
You have to be. I think if you're married in a certain number of years, you have to learn how to mastermind, or else start over again. Maybe, I don't know.
It's got to be his idea. And I even said in the text, this is how, I don't want to say manipulative. I am smart. I'm going to say smart. I sent him a text the other day and I said, oh, I meant to mention this while you were here, but I was thinking about your suggestion from last year, thinking that I should move all my stuff downstairs and just not take up all the space in the living room. It just makes sense. And I know I fought this for a long time, but I'm starting to think you were right. And that's how I started.
That's how it's done. Yeah.
He can't fight himself.
It was your idea, buddy. Yeah. Big time. We haven't sorted out our office yet. Like, the room is done finally. So this is the room that when the inspector, when we were buying the house, you have an inspection done. And I guess they were just kind of nodded at that room that was full of like stored furniture. And they were, I guess, just like, yeah, that's a room. And it was literally 100% mold. Like, the entire room was just mold. Like, you could put your hand through the wall.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's why this whole allergy moment that I'm having is ironic, because that room is done now. It is drywall. It has new floor, new wall. We had to take the siding off of the house, if you can imagine.
Wow.
And put in like entirely new walls and new joists and stuff like that. And my husband did all of this virtually by himself. And now it's painted and it has a floor and everything, and it's got a couple pieces of furniture, and my saddles are in it. They're not in the kitchen anymore. But he's going to put his desk, which is where I'm sitting now, which is in our bedroom. He's going to put his desk in there, and then he's going to be the one that gets to go in and shut the door.
No.
I know. I'm like, fuck, that's not really...
I thought your plan was to turn that into your little office / studio.
I mean, it's still going to be / studio. Okay. I'll take it for that purpose. But I just want a whole room that's just mine. And that's very greedy. Because I'm going from having no room whatsoever to now there is a room that I can share. But I hate having people anywhere near me, behind me, looking at me, touching, talking. Within the zip. I don't like writing with somebody in the same zip code as me.
Oh God, no. Which is why I'm not as prolific as you too, because I have kids in the house.
Oh yeah.
So like, I'm literally retreating to Vermont for 5 days. I call it vacation because I will be alone. Yeah. I will be working. I will be writing. I'll be finishing this book and all the revisions. But like, I can't, if I have interruptions, I get mad. Like, I start off getting frustrated and then I start getting mad. And then I start, and I don't want to be that person.
I know.
So, when you get in the flow, it's hard to stop, and when there's interruptions. So really, I don't want to pull this card because it's been pulled on me, but if you're the breadwinner and writing and quiet, it just makes sense for you to have that space.
I know. It does. But that's not... Or maybe
timetable, like you can have a schedule.
I might try to put something in this room, in the bedroom, because this desk is large and it will move out. And then we have another large piece of furniture behind me that's going to go down there. And then there's going to be like an empty corner. And so I think I'm going to put an armchair in the empty corner. And I could just lap desk it and sit and put my feet up and work in comfy solitude. So that could work. I could listen to my weird smooth jazz that I like to listen to when I write and not have any interruptions. So that might be the way to go. Plus I can see out the window where the horses are, and I like that.
Oh, that
I like
is
I have
nice.
to have a window to work. So I'm trusting the process. You know?
Well, you know, how this happened for me was Jason was working from home 2 days a week during COVID, and he was working in the basement, and he is an extrovert, and it was driving him crazy that he was sitting in like this dark caved-like space, and he was separated from the family. Okay. So when I was working, I was working 6 days a week, and when I needed an office space, I went from working on the couch to just making a little corner in the living room.
Yeah.
And then he saw how nice I made that little corner in the living room, and how the dogs would come hang out with me, and how, I was in and out and all these things. And so he got jealous.
Yeah.
And then he moved, which I told him he shouldn't. He moved out of the basement office upstairs to the dining room. He took it over, and now he sits there next to us complaining every day that we're too loud
Oh
for
my
him.
God.
So he got what he wanted, right? And now I'm thinking, well, like, he got what he wanted. And so it wasn't intended as a bait and switch, but I'm like, well, maybe now I want that. And I want the opposite. I want the quiet. So, like, he won't mind, right?
It seems like he'd already abandoned the space. So
Abandoned. I spend more time down here than he does. Because he doesn't play the drums very often anymore. And we've got 2 sets sitting in here.
that was awfully generous of you to marry a drummer. Somebody has to do it, but it could not have been me.
He soundproofed the room, so it makes a great podcast studio. All that work is done. But he had his regular drums were put away for years, and he bought an electric set so he could put headphones on, and you just hear the tink, tink, tink.
Oh.
So it works. But also,
I would still murder him. The tink, tink, tink would be enough.
Well, he wants to murder me because I talk about horses all day. So there's a give. But yeah, so I'm, working on making this a really cool podcast / office space. And so we'll see how that goes. But oh my God, you're going to have so much fun at Briarfest.
I think so.
It's your demographic.
That's what they say. And I already have some people coming that I'm really excited to meet for the first time. Like people that have been readers and fans and friends for a really long time, like really supportive people. So I'm super excited to see them. And I've been promised coffee on Saturday morning from some readers, so I'm looking forward to that.
You're going to be jittery for another reason. Everyone's going to bring you coffee.
Oh, I love that. That's my love language. You brought me coffee? Is a love language something you accept from someone else? Because that's what I mean. But I had so I'm on a lot of Sudafed, right? And I'm drinking coffee. And it's a really very explosive combination, Sudafed and coffee.
Yeah, uppers and downers there, buddy.
No down, only up.
You're taking the non-drowsy?
Only up. Oh, yeah. I like I said before, I had a mold allergy, and that's why I think it's funny that this room is cleaned up and all of a sudden I'm having some kind of insane allergy. But it has been raining a ton, so that's probably what it is. But I used to work, at Disney's Polynesian Resort back when it had the big fountain in the middle of the lobby, and I worked in the lobby. So I'm in this 1970s building with a fountain that's been running for 30 years. Okay. And this entire building was like made of mold. And so I was taking Sudafed. Like that was when I started buying the economy size packages of generic because it was the only way to get through the night because my headaches were so bad. And I made friends with a waiter in the coffee bar upstairs. and he would see me coming. I was a manager, so I was allowed to, carry a cup of coffee around. And it was like one of the main reasons to be a manager is you wear your own clothes and you can carry a cup of coffee around. And he would give me Kona coffee, which was like $7 or $8 there, instead of like Disney Nescafe coffee. And so I started calling him my coffee boyfriend. And he'd see me, he'd be like, Kona? And I'm like, Kona. And so I was mixing
your love language.
Sudafed coffee every single night, wired, until I get home at 2 a.m. and just start like running around. And it was great. So I used to call it my pixie dust. People would be like, Natalie, you had your pixie dust? I'm like, not yet, but I'm going to get it.
So unhealthy.
And that's kind of where I am right now.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that was my love language. His real name was Scott, but I just call him coffee boyfriend.
I mean, a moniker is a love language all of its own. If you get a nickname from me, then I love you. Okay. So.
Well, I have a collection of Heathers, which I love. Like I was addressing envelopes a couple weeks ago of books, and some hardcovers were going out, and my husband's like, "Are they all named Heather?" Like, yeah, isn't that great? All my super fans are named Heather.
We're a vibe, okay?
You're a total vibe.
There's the '90s movie is for a reason.
Yeah,
so
that's how it got there.
Amazing. Oh my God. Well, it sounds like you're going to be a little bit fun today to talk to.
I don't even know where that story came from or why I told it.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a total stream of consciousness. We're just going to ride the wave that is Natalie. I don't even know how we're going to describe this in the show notes.
Natalie is on a legal high.
Natalie's all fucked up. Mentally, Heather's body is messed up. But it's cool.
Yeah.
I went when I was at the barn the other day, because I went, even though my hand was all messed up, I wasn't limping, so that was cool. And I was wearing this brace, and my trainer, my friend Robin, was sitting there, and she had a brace for the same exact injury on the opposite hand, right? And her daughter goes to us, or one of the barn kids goes to us, "What is wrong with you two?" And we look at each other and we both go, at the same time, we're in our 40s. Like,
last night, I'm so related to that. It's insane. Last night, my husband said something and I gave him a thumbs up. And then I was like, "Oh, I hate that." And he did it and he's like, "Oh, I hate that too." And I thought, what? I didn't used to feel a thumbs up. That wasn't like a position that you had an opinion about. You just put your thumb up in the air. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't like how that affects my ligaments and tendons." Like, God. Now I can still put my middle finger up and it's fine.
Well, because that one works the most,
It has the most muscle.
Exactly. Oh my God. I'm crying right now. I can't even. It's so relatable. Like most of the time when I get injured, like there's no reason for it. People are like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" I went, my daughter was in therapy last night, so I took her. I was after a very, very long day of work, and I've got the kids. I'm bring one kid with me, 2 others are at home, whatever.
Right.
And so I bring her to therapy, and her therapist goes, "Oh my God, what happened?" And I was like, "Nothing." And I'm so confused as why she's asking me. And I look down and I'm like, I've got a brace on my knee and a brace on my arm. I look like I've been in a wreck. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine."
Nothing happened. I'm in my 40s.
But also too, like, it's like, I can see it happening, this downward slide into, 60s and up. They start with like, "Oh, these are all my maladies." Like,
right.
Every conversation involves the things that are there. "Well, I got my blood test recently," and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's starting."
Well, I set Corey and I up with a doctor last week, this week, I don't even remember. We finally went to a doctor, which is like we've never had a regular primary doctor ever, not one time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And so I set this one up, and Corey was grousing about it a little bit. And I was like, "Look, babe, this is it. From here on out, man, we have a doctor. We have blood panels run. We have prescription bottles. Like, we are there. We've aged into it. Congratulations to us.
You were in the era.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Achievement unlocked.
Basically, yeah. So, and my doctor's office, I go in, and it's literally just huge prints of horses on the walls.
Oh, is that why you picked them?
No, that was just a lucky coincidence.
Oh my God. That's
I know.
amazing. Well, you found the right doctor.
And it wasn't a vet.
Well, I would hope you're not seeing a vet for your personal
health. There was this,
health.
there's a thing of sugar cubes on the counter. I was like, oh, they're like, only if you're good. No, that didn't happen. But
yeah, I would do that. I'd be like, that's great. I was a good girl.
Yeah, right? No, there were no lollipops.
Oh my God.
But it was
so
fun.
funny.
We had fun. It was a good doctor. I got a prescription to help me sleep. I don't even know if it's been filled yet, but I just like knowing that I have it.
Well, you're especially going to need it after taking uppers all day.
I don't know when I'm going to sleep again. I'll be honest with you.
You never sleep anyway. So like
Exactly.
that's super great.
Yeah.
The other day I did, and we could go on about this all day, you and me back and forth. But my husband had like the sniffles and he thought he was dying. Like, he thought he was dying. He had so much nausea. He was like, I have the stomach flu. Turns out he had a little bit of, like just phlegm, and it was making him nauseous. So he was fine. He went to work and everything like that. So he kept me up all night moaning. Oh. And then the next night, his snoring was so bad because it was finally in the head that I had to get up at 1 a.m. and go downstairs and sleep on the couch that smells like my dog's. In a hoodie and like no pants because I couldn't find them in the middle of the night with no glasses. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I got to get out of here. And then he had the balls to be like, how'd you sleep? Why'd you leave? I'm like, fuck off. I actually recorded him. I have voice recordings of him snoring. Like, I was like, I want to show you how bad it was, man.
Well, did he take something or did he just decide to tough it out and that's why he was snoring?
No, I think he took something. He definitely put on like the breathe right strips. They help, but they don't, they don't get rid of it. And so it was just, he gets snuggly too when he's sick and he like wants to feel loved. And so it's really fucking annoying because I don't like to be touched when I'm sleeping.
No.
So like I had no covers. I had this human like heater trying to hug me all night and snore in my ear. I was like, this is the worst. Like, for anybody out there who's like, I want to be married. No, you don't.
I remember telling Corey after we moved in together, and I was still very much in the like, please love me phase, before I figured out that, it was fine. But he would go to work and he would give me a little kiss when he was leaving. And the first time I like, stood up and said, we have to back off on the loving part. I was like, you can't kiss me when you leave because you wake me up. And I can't fall back asleep. I was like, if anything touches me, then I'm awake for the duration. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's never been an issue since.
Yeah, boundaries. Boundaries are great. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been known to smack him, like, for real, like, in the middle of the night. Like, if the nudging and the, hey, roll over doesn't work, I will smack him and be like, wake up and leave, but so I'm considered quite mean to him because I just don't do well if I'm woken up. I get mad.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I think a lot, like, I don't think separate bedrooms, not separate bedrooms, but like a spare bedroom, I don't think they're a terrible idea. Especially as you do get older and you get sniffly.
Yeah. I feel that saves marriages.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's quite a luxury to have a whole other room. So.
I mean, at this point, I would sleep on the floor if I didn't think he would take it personally. Just for some space. I actually, and I love him, but he went to Hartford for a couple days for work, and I starfished. It was great. I was like, I slept the best I've slept in months. And then when he gets back, I'm going to be in Vermont for 5 days. I'm like, this is wonderful. Like, all marriages should be like this. Everyone should be able to travel, and then you just see each other on the weekends. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be great.
Yeah, the other nice thing about traveling is you can like watch the really weird stuff on YouTube. Like, there's a whole bunch of Disneyland specials I want to watch, and I'm just kind of saving those up for my next trip.
Yeah, because he's not going to want to watch that.
No, and he will too, and that'll make it weird. Like, no, I'm watching a 60s Disneyland special on YouTube. I don't really need solidarity. I know it's weird. I get it.
Like, let me be weird by myself, and then we can have our show we watch together later.
Yeah,
that will be easier. Our bonding time.
It's just easier, for sure.
I do the same. I'm just, marriage is tricky like that, but it's nice to know that I'm not the only one, because I'm hearing what I'm saying, and I feel like a bitch. I'm not going to change, but I feel like, okay, that's maybe a little bitchy of me, but it's nice to know I'm not the only one.
Oh, I think it's just like the interaction between two people. It's like for a while, the corners get rubbed off, and then they kind of sharpen up again, and then they kind of have to rub off again. You know,
Yeah.
It's just, it goes up, it goes down, where it's just like, you know what, right now, I just really need to not have anything bother me. And then we spend a couple of years just all over each other again.
Yeah. It's like peaks and valleys. And then I guess it's just like with everything.
Bluegrass Animal Products Equiotic is a live daily probiotic supplement for your horse. Equiotic is the only probiotic sourced from horses' good gut bacteria. This allows the good bacteria to survive in the GI tract.
Veterinarian developed and recommended, Equiotic is trusted by horse professionals to keep their horses feeling their best. From the top competition horse to a backyard companion, Equiotic can help to keep your horse's sensitive GI tract feeling good.
To learn more and order Equiotic today, go to bluegrassanimalproducts.com and use the coupon code HRN for 15% off Equiotic packets and paste. Equiotic is also available at many retailers, including SmartPack and Chewy, but the coupon code HRN is only available at bluegrassanimalproducts.com.
And I mean, I guess, we've been chatting a little bit. When you and I were chatting about the topic idea for today, we were talking about like where we were a year ago and like what things are different now.
Yeah.
Right? Like what a difference a year makes, right? And
so incredible.
So, traveling that from marriage, right? Marriage can be different a year ago than it is today, right? And it could be different in 3 months from now. But the same is just with life in general and our time with horses, our work. Nothing stays the same ever.
No. Sometimes I've been in a really good place, really just for the past couple of months, to the point where I was thinking, I don't want to go on vacation necessarily because I'm really content with the schedule and the routine that I have right now. And then really the past 2 days, the schedule was kind of upended by, like, I was getting up in the morning and I was riding and it was really pleasant. And I would get up really early sometimes and write a little and then go ride. Super pleasant, blah, blah, blah. Just really feeling at peace with the schedule I had. And then yesterday morning I woke up, it was thundering. Like, it's a little early for that cloud. And so I didn't end up riding yesterday. And then this morning, whatever happened to my brain. And then it was like a sauna outside this morning. Just unreal. And I'm like, all right, so I can't even ride right now. Like the schedule's already been upended. And I'm tired of writing constantly. I need a break. So that switch just got flipped. Time for something new. Time to change this up. But it has been quite a year. And I do things really differently now than I did a year ago.
Do you really?
Every respect. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you have me now that
I have you now. So we had just started, right? A year ago.
Yeah, we did. It was a year ago, June, that we went live.
Right.
And I think we've hit a rhythm. I think we've hit a rhythm with organization and recording and things like that. But I think we've also found kind of our voice.
I think so. Yep. It's indefinable.
Yeah, exactly.
Indefinable.
But hey, that's what makes it interesting, right? But what else is new for you? Like, what else are you doing different?
So I just decided that the only way I was going to make it as a creative person was if I just embraced the spontaneity of being a creative person. And so I have absolutely no deadlines. I don't set definite dates for anything.
Good for you.
I work on whatever the hell I feel like working on. And I don't sweat things like marketing plans or launches. I just put stuff out when I feel like it. I put out a book yesterday.
Yeah, I saw.
Because I felt like it.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Absolute crickets. But hey, you know, it's not a book anyone asked for. I just put out a book last week.
So no one was expecting it. It sounds like you're kind of putting a little, like that's my level of, I tend to be spontaneous like that. Like I kind of focus on what I can at the time.
Yeah.
And then if something else pops up, but I'm not good at deadlines. Like I need them, but I've always been more spontaneous. Like, so what you're describing now is kind of like how I've always rolled. And I think I need to take a page out of your book and maybe adopt some of your older practices of like setting deadlines and having a little bit of a plan. And that might help me a little bit.
Maybe. I've just moved into creative anarchy, basically. And
anarchy.
I keep track of what I do to see if it's working, right? So I have a spreadsheet, and every month I make a new tab for it, and it has every project I'm working on. And if I come up with something new, I add another column. And then it has the dates, and I put the number of words I wrote, essentially. So if I'm revising, I might spend 3 hours on something and write 300 words. Or if it's something new, I might spend 2 hours on it, write 4,000 words. But, you know, it'll have like 7 columns of different projects that I'm working on. And sometimes I open it and go, oh, I haven't worked on this at all recently. I should throw something on there so it's fresh in my mind. And I'll go in and add a chapter to that. And so,
wow, my God, that sounds so organized. Honestly, that's crazy.
It's just it's the simplest of spreadsheets on Google Chrome. Like it's not, and it's pleasant because then you can see your word count for the month. Because I just throw in, you know, a couple sums. So like last month, I finished writing Flight, and I put some touches on some other things, and I ended up with about 75,000 words for the month.
That's awesome.
It was a busy month, right? Like I wrote a ton last month, and then this month we're halfway through, and I've written more than I meant to, honestly. I've written like 12,000 words or something. I'm like, because I wasn't planning on really writing this month at all. So, but it shows me like, oh, I haven't worked on this one serial novel literally at all this month. So this afternoon, I'm going to write 2 chapters on that so that it's updated.
Well, and that's true. You definitely have the series, which makes a difference. Like with my writing, even though I have a couple projects going, I only have one that I tend to focus on at a time. And so I've got the deadline for this one with Sid. And so I couldn't even like 40,000 words in the last month on it. And, you know, plus revisions and things like that. But like, I don't think I could bounce around like you do, because I live my life in chaos. Like I bounce around, but I don't think I could track the bouncing. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm more organic.
The whole rest of my life is not chaotic, right? Because I don't have a lot of things pulling at me besides like sometimes in the evening I feel like I have 8 million things to do because it cools off slightly and I go, I got to do this with the horses. I got to do this in the garden. The cat wants to do this. I got to do that. But that's not, you know, driving people around or picking things up or making appointments or anything like that. So it's pretty simple. And
I have a hard time keeping a list of things to do and sticking to it. I don't even know where my list went.
I have a list. I do a monthly list in Evernote.
Yes.
And then I strike through the one-time things, and then the other stuff that like I work on every week, I leave open. And I go, did I work on this week? Yes, I did.
It sounds like you've relaxed a lot of your methods, but you still keep nice and organized, which I think is healthy because, you know, and you know, I've said to you in the past that I think you were just a little bit too focused, too driven, and putting out too much too fast. Like you were just under pressure all of the time. Yeah. Yeah. And I would still have a lot of anxiety if I didn't know where I was. So that's why I keep like records, because I'll feel like I didn't do anything at all. Which should be fine. Honestly, I should be allowed to do nothing at all if I want. But I'll be like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get this, and this done? So I have these lists and I have goals, but they're not rigid.
Nothing's going to happen if I don't meet them. Nothing will happen to me.
I think that's a super healthy change for you.
Yeah, I had to go like really far in the other direction. And I got where I am by being super driven and meeting deadlines and working my ass off. That's how I got to this point.
So now you can relax a little.
Exactly. It was a question of, can I, do I have enough out there now that I can step back and do things in a more relaxed manner? And all of my writing is lighter. Like I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Like everything I'm writing now is lighter and funnier. Like I'm having so much more fun than I was a year ago.
Well, isn't that the ideal, is to be able to have fun and make it your career?
Yeah. But I used to write fairly serious stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I was digging into heavy stuff. And now I'm like, I'm going to write rom-coms 24/7.
Those are so fun to read.
Yeah.
Those are so fun to read.
Exactly.
Well, and that's why I'm excited because, once I submit this book with Sid and I to Trafalgar, my focus is going to be on The Backdoor Horse and getting that finished because it's half written. And I am so excited to have like a fun read, something that's like a little bit more, I don't want to say it's fiction, nonfiction tends to be a little bit drier, even though I write humorously. I do feel like this is going to be a fun project for me. So I think I'm really looking forward to that. But I was thinking when you were talking about like the difference in a year, I'm in a different place in my life because my kids are still in school. And so every summer it's kind of the same old grind and things like that. So I'm like, what am I doing differently this year? And, obviously I've got different books coming out and I've got the Iceland retreat coming up. But what I thought was really, for me, important, and this is something that I will die by because it is my priority, is Ferris. You're going to want to hold a party for me, okay? Ferris is sweating. Ferris is sweating. And I mean, like, he will come out of the paddock and he's got sweat on him, where for 2 years in 95 degrees, he would have to come in because he was bone dry and needed to be bathed 3 times to get him to cool down. Like, this for me is such a huge thing. Like, I feel like I can breathe this summer. Like, I'm not worrying about him having a heart attack. And more than that, I feel like we're not going to lose all of that time we put in to getting him back and fit and healthy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like beyond, of course I'm a little bit injured, but like my quote unquote niece rode him the other day and I came to watch, and he did so good. Like, he looks so much better. He's sweating. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's sweating. Like, we're having barn dances. Like, we're dancing around. Like, we just had a touchdown. Like, everybody's kind of celebrating the fact that, like, he's feeling better. And it is such a win and is such a relief. And it is honestly the first summer in years that I've been able to ride him.
That is so wild. Maybe did you trade your soundness for his, maybe?
Very much a devil's
Was there
bargain.
A wood switch? What happened here?
I might have, and you know what, though? But that's okay.
Yeah, right?
I care about his health more than mine. I know that sounds pretty terrible, but I look back and I'm like, wow. And part of me feels a little guilty because I think, like, okay, I thought it was just the anhydrosis getting worse. And I didn't realize that that there was something more underneath that layer of illness. And once we started to find out and blood test for Cushing's, and once we started to treat for Cushing's, it was like a game changer.
Wow. Okay.
So I wonder too, like, how long he was feeling poorly and didn't say anything. So there's some guilt there, but I'm hoping he's sassy. Like, he's doing good. So that's all I want is my sassy little pony to be happy.
That's why I've got Manny out there being 24 years old, and he had lost some weight because it was really dry in early summer, and he doesn't eat a lot of hay, but he eats a lot of grass, and the grass was really grazed down. And so I was like, oh, he's a bit bony. And so I talked to the vet and I doubled up all his feed and doubled up Timothy pellets, and he takes forever to eat it. And even though he's got some like overcoat that it'll shed out, but it's there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can pull it out, but it's just
like the guard hairs.
A little too much hair. And he's kind of missing a top line. So I'm like, is something going on with them? But you want to talk about sassy. This little asshole. He was getting so bossy. I was like losing my mind with him. Like, started shutting him up places while I rode Ben. Like, I couldn't take it anymore. Like, get out of here, get out of here. So, yeah, if attitude is anything to go by, he is just fine. And he's put it weight back on, so.
Oh, good. Well, and that's what matters. And I think, I think minis are like thoroughbreds. They don't always grow up. You know, like no matter how old they are, they're going to be kind of a lot of personality. I met a 30-year-old mini the other day while I was at work, and he thought he's a stud. And my daughter was leading him around, and they were playing with him, and they were doing all these things. And like he saw a mare, and like, boy, I was like, oh, wow, 30 years old, you still got it. Okay. Here's a biology lesson, girls. And
you're right, though. They are like little thoroughbreds. I never really thought about it. Yeah, he's a monster.
I know. I love it. It's so great. It's so great. Well, and Delight's happy too. Like now that so last year, that's a difference too. Is last year I was focusing on Delight in the summer because, of course, Ferris couldn't be ridden. And so I was like really focusing on spending time with Delight in the saddle and getting him comfortable. And I was riding him not a lot. I mean, maybe once a week. For us, that was a lot. And now he's not riding at all. And, you know, he's happy. I mean, he's content. He gets bored periodically, and we go and we play games, and everything's fine. But, like, I think my differences are mostly horse sleep related, which, you know, I mean, let's be honest. My life, like, I work for them, so.
Yeah. From a horse perspective, I really couldn't be in a more different place than I am last year. You know, I had just gotten the horses here last year. So I just started riding Ben again after not riding him for 2 years. And we were struggling, like really hard. And, we did all those physical pieces, but that took me like 6 months to put all those pieces in order. So it was all the way up until early this year where I was still struggling. Like this horse was just not the horse I remembered. And now that we work with ride-along lessons almost 4 or 5 days a week, I put on a lesson and we work to it. It's the opposite of my writing where I need goals to keep me moving forward. And I really think we talked that through here. So yay, podcast saving my life on my horse.
Podcast as therapy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Riding career by podcast.
Well, I think it's very interesting too when we're talking about like the differences between years. I mean, there's always change. You can count on that. It's nice to look back and see some of the similarities, but it's also nice to see improvements. There's certainly some things that I would like continue to like to grow towards or focus on. But I think everyone can relate because nothing stays stagnant. Nothing stays the same forever. And it can change more than we think in just a short period of time. And I think, like, I'm looking back, and there's so many people who, when they're starting out with their businesses or their riding or their riding horses, they get frustrated they're not moving fast enough. Mm-hmm. But then you look back and you say, look at where I was 3 months ago. Look where I was 6 months ago. Look at where I was a year ago. And wow, what an incredible difference.
Yeah. I think about that all the time. Like, and every time I start doing something slightly different, I remind myself, like, in 2 months, you're not going to believe it was this much of a struggle.
Yes.
In 3 months, it'll be so natural. It was like you've always been doing it. It took a really long time to learn that lesson.
I still sometimes have to remind myself.
Yeah, it feels like getting closer.
With age comes wisdom, mm-hmm. and broken things in your body, but wisdom. So I guess your body breaks, but your mind gets better. And I guess I've always been very impatient. Like I do love to do things organically and in their own time, and I like to kind of see where the wind takes me sometimes. But at the end of the day, I was talking my other day with my business with the horses is going so well. In fact, I had to shut down new clients for the summer because it was just overwhelming, taking up my schedule. And yet with the dogs, I felt like, wow, this isn't really doing what I wanted it to. I feel like there's a lot of dogs that, don't know I'm still here, for them and what I can provide. And then, life turns around and says, like, what here? But like, you're going to be featured in a magazine about the dogs soon. And you've got all these dog shows you've been invited to, and you've got all these things. And you look at it and you're like, okay, well, I guess I had a bad moment, but things go better if I just have patience and I keep working towards that goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the valleys, they show up and they feel like that's all you've got.
Yeah.
It's like, everything went wrong today. My life is wrong. No, probably not.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, that's one of the reasons that I make lists and I keep spreadsheets, sometimes for things that seem completely unrelated, is I feel better when stuff is documented and I go, I've got that. That's coming down the pike. That's happening. And I go, okay, all right, everything's fine. You know, I live on royalties, right? So some days the royalties are good and some days the royalties are bad. And you just go, okay, that's all right. Today's bad because next week you have this and you have that. Like, there are reasons for these things and it evens out in the end as long as you keep pushing.
Yeah, don't get overwhelmed. Just keep pushing towards the goal, because I mean, I look back to when I first started. Like, I started over. I worked in publishing for 12 years, and then I was a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. And so I didn't start my businesses. I didn't start the Timid Rider. I didn't start the books or even my massage business until 2016. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is 7 years later. Looking back, I would be like amazed and so just in awe of what I've accomplished. But at the time, it felt like it was so overwhelming and I would never get to be successful. And I would, maybe I can make it a year and make money and, you know, or whatever. And it's so funny how things changed. And so I guess it's just like, never give up, right? Like, just don't give up, because things will get better. Things will always move forward. You just got to keep at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just got to be prepared for the incremental differences to slowly get bigger, because incremental becomes exponential. How about that? That's word art.
Ooh,
yeah.
Word art.
I'm trademarking that, Gary V.
Well, and it's funny too. My husband always said I used to focus on too many things. Mm-hmm, and he's
familiar.
Right. I used to say yes to everything, right? Yeah. And I was like, let's try it out. Let's see if some things worked, some things very clearly didn't. And I had to learn to start saying no, one, but also, like, I like trying new things because I don't know if it's going to be fun. I don't know if I'm going to be good at it. I don't know if it will do well. And I think I work better when I have more things, because I don't focus on one thing all the time, because I think I would get bored and overwhelmed at the same time.
Yeah. I am, right now, like, I feel like on one hand I'd say, I'm very good at chaos. And on the other hand, like, if I owe anything to another person, I feel that on my shoulders. Somebody's waiting for something. I owe somebody something. Like, God.
I've got this deadline.
God, God.
This month. And I'm like, oh my God.
I know.
Even though I'm going to meet it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this is all I'm thinking about.
Well, I have a short story that I was supposed to write months ago for my Kickstarter for the Foaling Season audiobook. It's a short story, Heather. I have written 4 novels. I can't come up with a single thing for the short story. I'm like, maybe while I'm on vacation, I'll write the short story. Like, I just empty my brain out of novels and I have no idea.
But that's what happens to you. Remember when you went on the cruise and you came back with a book idea?
I did, didn't I? I wonder what book that was. I don't remember now.
I'd have to look back on your social, because I remember being like, Natalie, we talked about this. You're on vacation.
So many books ago.
Well, and it's so funny. It's like you and I are completely opposite in a lot of ways. I mean, you obviously have the books as your mainstream focus. For me, my goal is the books will be slowly building over time. So that way, when my hands fail me completely and I need to sell my massage business, then I have kind of built the books, and I have the backlog, and I have, can focus on that and write more and more. And
you'll just have to dictate. So you already busted your hands. You think my hands don't hurt from all this typing? My
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Well, that's why I was like, oh my God, I'm wearing this brace and I have to finish this book. I was like, that's
spit out coffee.
So great. But yeah, it's so funny. So, and you kind of have taken I'm going to focus on this and like hit it really hard and have multiple books a year and all this. And I went the opposite, and I'm doing like I'll do one book a year and, really focus on that and the other things. And then I have, so it's very funny to kind of see, but we both keep moving forward.
Yeah. And, I know that you occasionally take on more clients than you can comfortably handle.
Yeah.
And I take on more books than I can comfortably handle, but I like writing them, and I have a lot to write, and I have a lot to revise that I've already written. Like I really like doing it. Yeah. And people don't always understand that that's, a major reason why I have so many books and I put out so many books, because I have a lot to say and I have a lot I want to write. And they'll say, I know you want to get off of that train where you're putting out, 5 or 6 books a year. I'm like, no, I don't want to stop that. I love doing it. And I have a backlog of stuff that isn't published. It's just insane.
Oh, trust me. I get that. And yeah, I do the same thing with clients. I'm like, I want to help I love what I do. Mm-hmm. I would do it 7 days a week if I didn't need like a mental and physical break, because it's like meditation for me.
Yep.
I feel better for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really, I don't know. I think there's so many things to be thankful for in the past year. So many changes. My family is growing older. I'm only going to have so many years with them. My horses are in a different place than they were last year. Physically, I'm in a different place, but mentally, I'm better than I was last year.
That's really good. I mean, I think that's maybe the most important one of all. Like, mentally, are we ahead of where we were last year?
Yes.
I am
100%.
Billion% ahead of where I was last year. It was a disaster. I don't know how I did the podcast last year because I was in a state.
Yeah. Well, and I hope in some way that maybe like it helped a little bit just to kind of, get your focus out of the books and maybe, have someone to talk to. I'm here for you whenever.
Huge help. And like an interesting growth direction. So it wasn't like I'm still just writing books by myself, and putting them out in the same way, like meeting people and talking to people in different ways and things like that. Yeah, has always made a big difference. But you are the difference. You are my dark new moon.
I'm your dark muse. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says I'm Natalie's muse. And I don't care if it's true or not. And that's what I'm going to tell myself when I'm having a dark day. Okay. No, but same. I think I absolutely loved working with you the last year on this podcast. Like I feel like I've had so much fun with it, and I hope that's clear to everybody listening to us. But I feel like I've gotten to know you so much better, and God, you and I always have fun together.
We do, because, we're chronic oversharers.
It's true.
And this is just a wonderful way for us to just talk about ourselves.
Yes, but and
make weird faces into the camera.
Well, that is true. And soon Patreon will be able to see those weird faces. Yeah. But when we get together, we balance each other out. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's so healthy and so important. And I so appreciate you, Natalie. And I'm so glad that we're doing this together.
I appreciate you.
I know you do. No, I'm just kidding. Compliments make me feel awkward. Thank you for being a little weird with us, Horse Girl. If you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your player of choice. Follow us on Instagram at Adulting with Horses Podcast, or even better, join our Adulting with Horses Clubhouse on Facebook, where you can become part of the show. Also, it's a great place to meet other horse crazy women.